Okay, so week 5, section 5. So networking, such a fundamental topic. Good basic content about networking, configuring routers, connection, service types. Just good to know if you don't already have a working knowledge of networking. So, in addition to the content for the quizzes, this week there's two topics that we'll do, which is first a discussion topics, and then you will record a new presentation. So let me go over both of these items. So I know I've already seen a post this semester with somebody talking about the darknet diaries, and in past semesters you may have heard me say I used this for the research part of this class, but I've changed this semester into only using chat or AI content for you to use and to present like we will do here. But I definitely still think taking a look at Darknet Diaries is a good idea because I learn personally so much about the cybersecurity world when I listen to these episodes because it exposes you to good storytelling, I think, personal opinion there, but also just the topics around what you are walking into as far as an industry. And sometimes that content or those things can be a little dark. So, you know, and Jack Resider is the guy who does this, when he says at the beginning of an episode, he gives you a warning. If you're somebody that's sensitive to that stuff, pay attention. So I'm just going to say that. So here's what you need to do, right? So each student needs to pick a different, I need to emphasize that, right? Episode of the Darknet Diaries. Now, I've given you the YouTube channel, and additionally, I've given you the website. You can go either one. Just make sure, right, you're checking the discussion before you go in and start doing the work to make sure somebody hasn't already done it. Because if I see that episode done twice, you won't get hardly any points for it. So just don't do that. And I've also given you kind of a first come first serve basis. So what you can do is once you find one, and actually you can kind of tell just based on my watching of these that I watch them. I'm not just saying this, I actually do watch, actually more listen because they're not video, they're audio only. But come in here, find the one you want, and like you can post, right? You can post like this is episode 90, right? So in the reply, tell us which one you're going to do. That way when somebody else comes, they'll know which that's already taken. Now, here's where I struggled with saying how much you should do, but I said a minimum of 20 minutes, like listen to it for a minimum of 20 minutes. I definitely would recommend longer if you can, but I also don't want to overburden for this particular work. And then you're going to write a review. So all reviews must be your original work, okay? And your original thoughts, like what did you learn? And if there was if there were items if there were topics that he talked about that you don't know about, yeah, turn to chat to determine what those topics are, but write this work yourself. So basically a review, right? So what are the things that you learned? What is your impression of this content, of this episode? I'm a little flexible about how you go about talking about this because each episode has a different story, right? And there's different things you could get from it. Okay, so I also haven't done a minimum of writing, but for 20 minutes you should be able to give me a good couple of paragraphs, right? So make sure you write a substantive post and the replies to your classmates on their reviews that they selected. Because you may listen to somebody else's read somebody else's review and think, I want to go watch that one. As before, right, always post your discussion before Wednesday for attendance, but also just to give people a chance to start replying as soon as possible. And I have to say, this semester, I really feel good about the work that's being done this semester. There's a good number of you doing that posting early, which is awesome. And I try to make my rounds through there every couple of days to give you feedback. Okay, so then networking. So now the last thing you'll do is pretty much what we did week 2, except now, based on the research you did last week, okay, record a new, and that's a key, is I want you to, now you you could use the same PowerPoint formatting, but I don't want that audio. So that's why I say create a new file. And I talked about that last week, right? So make sure when you start doing this work, you don't start from the old one, you start a new one. Okay, and record your voice, no video required. What you learned from the second prompting research. And again, I emphasized in that last week's prompting the idea of being conversational, right? And 2 to 3 minutes in length, right? This week, again, you're only sharing it with me, right? I'll give you feedback. The sooner you do it, the sooner I can give you feedback. And I know some of you work on the weekends, so if you don't get it in by afternoon on Friday, I'm not going to see it until Monday morning. And then you're going to have to turn around and do the same peer review. So just keep that in mind, right? And I kept some of this content in from the first one, right? Try not to read the script directly, right? But allow it to be your guide and conversational. Submit your URL. I actually ended up here, and I should have put these together, is in your submission, give me a link to your current presentation, and in the comments, give me a link to your previous one. Ooh, I need to update that. Okay, now I added this content after last time, and I definitely recommend, and I put this here where possible, and I know PowerPoint does a really nice job of this, is create an MP4 output. And that basically is creating a video file format, and then upload that to wherever you're going to share, OneDrive, SharePoint, whichever one you have, and then making sure your permission is set, right? So that I can view them. All right, and again, I do this as a check so that next week your fellow students can view them. But there is, like last time, I had a couple that I had specifically said they needed to re-record. Okay, so the sooner you get to me something to review, the sooner I can give you that feedback. Again, this was from week 2, and I kept in these just because in case you needed a reminder, but again, I recommend using this process of creating an MP4. Okay, so current and previous. I'll update that content so that you know that you need to give me both, right? So in your comment, give me your current and in your previous. So before I showed you how you can give me a submission, right, for the URL and then in the comments, and it's the same thing here, so use that same process. All right, we are on week 5, hard to believe. We are past, or kind of at that midway point, 6 databases, cybersecurity specific on 7, and then 8 is really then the final. So we're definitely at a point now where you can hopefully see the forest through the trees. I'm not sure that's the right comment, but anyway, I've enjoyed reading your post and looking at your work. Remember, you can always pop by office hours or in my office, whichever work. I always enjoy meeting students taking this class. Have a good day. Bye.